We love having you here in the kitchen with us. And because it's winter time, we haven't really been out in our garden as much because there's not much to do out there, right? Well, not true. Oh my word, I love finding ways to garden even in the winter time. And I want to show you what we're doing right now to ensure that we have the biggest tomato harvest possible this summer, because we love to harvest from our garden to make fresh pesto, or with the tomatoes. Oh my goodness, we do all sorts of goodness with the tomatoes. And one of the things that we do with them is we actually put sun-dried tomatoes or roasted tomatoes in our sourdough bread. Sometimes I will do fresh focaccia sourdough bread, and then we serve it with our roasted tomatoes with this like creamy Boursin cheese. Oh my goodness, I will show you how to make that this summer when our tomato plants are going wild. But right now, I'm going to show you, and we get to go on a little adventure here through the house. So come with me, because we're going to walk through. Here's our living room. And down in our basement is where our garden is currently started. And I know that sounds crazy because you're like, what? How are you growing it down in your basement? Well, let me show you our little grow light that we have down here. And we keep it down here because I don't want it in the living room, partly. But also, it's actually really good for the plants to start down here because it gives them a little bit of cool temperature in the evening time. And then they get all of this like dose of warmth as the lights come on during the day. So I'm going to show you the things that you need to have in order to start seeds now in the winter time. And there's multiple things that we're starting right now, not just tomatoes, but that's the bulk of it, because the tomatoes, the reason we start them now is we want them by the time we get to the middle of May. So we live in the Pacific Northwest near Seattle, Washington, and we can't really plant our tomatoes before the middle of May because it's just too wet outside and they will start to turn yellow, they'll get stunted. And so we just wait until after Mother's Day. And you can see right now, like it's a nice gray day. It's the normal kind of weather for Seattle. And let's move you this way so that you can see me a little bit better light-wise. So here's the main things that you need to have. And I am a huge fan of using what you have, okay? So what we did is we went and found, we had an extra shelf that we weren't really using in the garage, brought it down here. And this, you do need to make sure you have a actual grow light. And Shelly, our YouTube admin, is here in the comments. She's gonna put a link below that directs you to our Amazon shop that has all of the different things that I'm talking about. The reason why you need a specific grow light, or it needs to be an actual light, is grow lights put off this whole spectrum of light that is essentially, it's trying to replace the sun. Now, can it fully replace the sun? Of course not, but it can get us really close so that our plants will be huge and ready to start producing tomatoes as soon as they get planted in the garden, which makes it that because we have kind of a short growing season here in the Seattle area, we want to have the tomato plants as big as possible so that when they go into the garden, they can start producing flowers right away, which makes it so that we start getting tomatoes kind of the end of July, which is great. And then by the time we hit end of August, we're getting bowlfuls of tomatoes, and they just keep going all the way into September. So the very first thing that you're gonna need is the grow light. Now, let's see, question for you. Oh, you can, okay. Bridget is saying she can't keep the worms and the bugs off of them. You live in Georgia. Okay, every growing climate is different, and every growing climate has different challenges. So like probably our biggest challenge here in the Pacific Northwest is actually the amount of moisture and mildew and powdery mildew. And then for the tomato plants, if they are getting too wet, they just turn yellow and they can be a little bit sickly. But For where you're at in Georgia, I always love when you can ask local gardeners, what do they do? Because local gardeners have the best tips for you because they're growing in the exact climate that you are. So ask your local gardeners what they do. But also, one of the best ways to ensure that your garden is really, really healthy is to have really good, rich soil. So if you haven't in the recent years, Bridget, do a fresh layer of like 12-ish inches of really good garden soil so that when you put your plants in, they're starting with a really strong base. Because when your plants are really strong, and they have the nutrients that they need, they can ward off those bugs and those worms. But we'll get to growing tomatoes out in your garden. We will get there, but right now I just want to show you what you need to start them, because if your plants are really big and mature and happy before they go into the garden, they're going to be able to take care of all of that other stuff. And then one other tip for helping to keep your garden healthy is actually to plant a diverse amount of plants. When you plant, it's why people say plant marigolds next to something, because the marigolds are kind of like a defender. Nasturtiums are another thing that is amazing to plant next to tomatoes because the nasturtiums will attract the aphids, the bad bugs, and they kind of are a host for all of the bad stuff, and they get all that bad stuff away from the other plants. So your nasturtium might look a little bit sad. It's why people say to put basil and tomatoes together. It's the diversity that allows them to be strong, which is so true in life too, right? When there's diversity, we're stronger. So you need to have the grow light. You need to make sure that your grow light, and this is the only thing, like if you have a way to put your grow lights up, like we just zip tied them and we actually adjust where our tray is by putting it, but you can do it where you have like a chain up here and then you can drop the light up and down as needed. The reason why you want to be able to adjust it in some way, whether you're going to raise it this way or you're going to lower your light, is that you want your light to always be about 2 inches above the tallest plant, which seems crazy, right? You would never get that close to the sunshine, but this is just a pretend sunshine. It can't really do everything the sun does. And so we need to make sure that the plants are as close to it as possible, about 2 inches away. And then they're going to get the biggest benefit from it. If you've noticed in the past that your seedlings, they're starting to grow, like maybe you tried to do it in your windowsill, they start growing, you're like, yes, they're doing so good. And then as they keep growing, they're getting really, really tall, really, really skinny, and then they like flop over. That's because they didn't get enough sunshine. They didn't get enough light. And plants need, when they're under the grow lights, they need 16 hours of direct light from that grow light. That is so long. That's not what would happen if they were outside, but the sun outside is different. It's perfect. It gives the plants exactly what they need. So, because I don't want to remember to turn the light on and off every day because I will forget, let me show you down here. We have this right here is our timer. And it's super cool timer. You can set it to come on. It will go on and off all on its own. We put the link to that in the Amazon list as well. And I can see Shelly has it in there. It's the Garden Essentials link. It has the light. It has the timer. It also has the seed trays that you'll need. And you want to make sure that you're getting seed trays that have a lid. The lid is essential for when your seeds are trying to germinate. Once you've seen that the bulk of your seeds have germinated, or you can see the little green shoots coming up, you don't need to have that lid on anymore. The lid is trapping the moisture in there so that the seeds they can get hydrated and they'll wake up. If you have the lid off, that's when you're needing to spray the soil and keep it really moist. not soggy wet. You don't want it to be moldy, but you just want it to be moist. The lid helps so that you're not having to worry about the soil drying out so fast. The light, there's warmth from the light, and your house, it like naturally the moisture is going to evaporate. So if you don't have that lid on, your seeds might be drying out. Okay, let's look if there's any questions here. Oh yeah, I love this. Helena is saying yes to sacrificial plants that the bugs will go to. Yes. One of the other sacrificial plants that I put in the garden is kale. We have a whole patch that we harvest from and we like to eat from, but any volunteer kale that pops up anywhere in the garden, I just let it keep growing because bugs love to go to that kale and then they leave the flowers alone, or they'll go to the kale and they'll leave the rest of the greens alone. So that's a really good way. And honestly, feeding your soil all throughout the growing season, when you feed your soil with a really good, healthy fertilizer, which we love, the Alaska fish fertilizer, it's in the Garden Essentials link that's down here in the comments. And we'll make sure that when this live is done, all of this information is in the description as well. But when you feed your soil, guess what? You're not just feeding your plant, you're actually feeding the whole microbiome of the soil, all of those beneficial microbes that are in the soil that you can't see. You're feeding those. And the plants have this really cool way that their roots, as their roots reach out, they're sending messages out into the soil and they're saying, hey, I need this nutrient. I need more of this nutrient. And those roots will keep reaching and reaching and reaching as they search for those nutrients. And they're sending messages to all of those microbes in the soil, bring me these nutrients. So then those microbes are going around and they're munching and they're bringing all of it to the roots so that they can absorb it. So don't forget to fertilize your garden. The fish fertilizer smells terrible, so bad. If you have a dog, I would say, water in the morning and with it, and don't let your dog go out into the garden that for like part of that day until it kind of dissipates. I've never had any of our neighbor dogs dig up anything in the garden, but I've heard some people say their dogs like it. Okay, another question. How often do you mist the seeds? Okay, if you look in here and you're like, oh, my soil looks a little bit dry on the top, that's when you missed them. And there are some seeds, and here, let me show you over here. There are some seeds that are so small. Let's say that you're starting snapdragons in particular. They are so tiny. Any seed that's really small, they typically tell you to start it by just essentially pressing it onto the top of the soil. So let's say that we were going to do snapdragon, not strawberry, snapdragon seeds. I would just press those seeds onto the soil. You don't cover them up. So when you look, like, let's say you have your packet of seeds, okay? This is a packet of tomato seeds, but look at the back of what your packet says, because almost every packet of seeds, and if it doesn't have this information, then go and do a little Google search and just type in, what's the best way to start snapdragon seeds? And just look at what it says. If it says it needs light for germination and to surface sow, that means you're just pressing it onto the surface of the soil, and then you would be misting them. And when I'm trying to get seeds like that started, I will mist it every couple days. And I'm essentially looking to make sure that the soil isn't dried out. There's this fine balance with it because you want the soil to still have moisture in it, but you don't want it to be soggy wet. You don't want your seedling, you don't want these sitting in water. That's not good for your plants unless you were literally trying to grow something that loves to be in the swamp. But most of what we're growing in our garden, it doesn't want to be in a swamp. So make sure that the soil has a chance to kind of dry out, and then you give it a dose of water again. And I don't have it right now because I had to order more, but it's in the Garden Essentials list. When you start seeds, number one, it's use seed starting mix, which is essentially this really light fluffy soil. And when you get that seed starting mix, which you can buy it at your local like greenhouse or Home Depot or Lowe's, any of those places will have it. Or I put some into the link that you can order if you don't want to have to go buy anything. When you get it though, make sure that you hydrate it first. What that means is I put it in our tub in our potting bench, and I pour as much water as needed over it until you can get it to like stick together. And your soil will start to, it'll look like soil instead of really fine powdery dust. If you try to put that soil, that seed starting mix, into your containers before you water and you get it hydrated, it will literally, like when you go to water it, it will just be like poof, like this volcano of seed starting mix out of there because it has to get hydrated first. So put it in a big bowl or a bucket, or if you have a potting bench, get it really nice and hydrated so that it doesn't need to be dripping wet, but you just want to be able to pick it up and it will stick together. Then you know that it's ready to put into your seed cells. Okay, then once you have it in your seed cells, here's the thing to remember is that your seed starting mix is it is really fine mixture, and it doesn't have any organic matter in it. And basically what that means is it's so fine, it's easy for the seeds to germinate in it, but it doesn't have any food for your seed. So your seed itself has everything it needs to germinate and start and grow. It doesn't need any food initially. But as soon as you see those green shoots start coming up for whatever it is you've planted, whether it's tomatoes or sugar snap peas or basil, as soon as you see those green shoots, you want to start giving your little baby seedlings, you want to feed them with the fertilizer that's made for seedlings. And that link is down in the in our garden essentials list. It's from Park Seed. They sell it on Amazon. You can also get it from Park Seed. And it comes in this little bag because you don't need very much of it. It's really bright blue. The reason why it's bright blue is so that when you put it into your water, somebody doesn't drink it on accident. It wouldn't hurt anybody, but it has all of the nutrients that your new seedlings need. If you've tried to start seedlings in the past, and maybe you did have them under grow lights, and you're like, oh, they're growing better, they're under the grow light, but then they started to get a little sick looking, a little bit yellow, that's because they don't have any nutrients. That seed starting soil doesn't have any food in it for them. So make sure that you begin, as soon as they start popping up, you start to give them a dose of that fertilizer. Okay, let's look for another question. Oh yeah, roses. Okay, Catherine's saying roses are great to attract the aphids. They are. Um, and let's see. Okay, what if fish fertilizer is attracting raccoons and skunks? Um, okay, if okay, the tip here from Helena is if you're noticing that it's attracting that, she's saying to throw a thin sprinkle of blood meal over the soil. Some of this is that you're going to need to do maybe a little experimenting in your area, but you can also go with a different type of the same fertilizer that isn't a liquid form, and it won't have as strong of a scent. We love to use blood meal. We use that when we plant our dahlias, and we'll bring you along when we do the dahlias and show you all about that. There's actually a whole playlist all about dahlias on our channel. There's also a whole playlist about tomatoes, and we're going to be adding to it all through the year as we're doing each one of these steps, because we have found some really fun ways to make tomato growing really easy. I want to give you a couple more tips before we sign off, but then I want to answer some questions. Okay, one thing to remember is, well, a couple more things, which I love seed starting. It's just as fun as sourdough. So if you're one of our sourdough friends on here, oh my goodness, we're so glad that we can do seed starting with you too, and gardening. And if you're new and you're like, I'm not interested in sourdough, not a problem. I understand. Come and join us for all of the fun. We love just inviting you into the garden and table here at Ciderpress Lane. So, okay, so this is a sugar snap pea, and it's pretty big. And so, because I want you to be able to see it. But this is kind of the rule to think about as you're planting any seed. This works for pretty much any seed. When you look at the size of the seed, you want to bury it so that it has about 2 times its height above it in soil. So if you have a really, really small seed like the Snapdragon seeds, it's why they say to surface sow, because they are so small. They can't, if they get buried in the soil, they don't get enough light and they can't wake up to start to germinate. Your sugar snap peas, though, this is a big seed. So you want to think, okay, I need to bury it. It needs to have about 2 fingers worth of soil over it. So you can just know, you're like, you don't need to go find the exact measurement and worry about the exact measurement in your soil. But what I do is I'm like, okay, I want to make sure that sugar snap pea is down far enough. So I just push it down until I see that, okay, it's down, covered by the soil. I love using a little toothpick, cover it with my toothpick, and then we're going to wait for it to sprout, which sugar snap peas are super fast. If your kids or grandkids are doing this with you, plant sugar snap peas. They love, love, love the cold weather. And so what we do is I actually have a whole tray of these. They're sitting in our living room right now because I just want them to wake up and sprout. As soon as they sprout, they're going to go out into our little tiny cold frame greenhouse. If you've seen our short, it's one Erin made it with a hinge top so I can like open it up easily. I put anything that likes cold weather, it gets to grow out there, because when a plant likes cold weather, it actually needs it in order to grow really strong and healthy. And it has been such a mild winter. Our sugar snap peas that we planted in the fall, they never died. They're still growing out in the garden. And so we're just starting a fresh batch of them. But anything that likes that warm weather, it needs it to be hot. It's going to stay down here under the grow lights. So this whole tray is tomatoes. This one up here, I actually have celosia started, which is, it's one of the cutting garden flowers that we love, and I like it to get a little bit bigger before it goes out into the garden. And then over here we have basil, because same thing, I want the basil to get really big so that as soon as it hits like the warmer season and we're into May, these plants can go out there and they are like ready to just start producing and growing. And we will be tending these inside, the tomatoes and these plants. They will be tended inside. So they're going to grow in here from beginning of February all the way until we get to the middle of May. And it's kind of like I get to come down and garden inside. And, you know, if it's a really gray, cold day, it's actually really good for you too to be by those grow lights. Okay, let's see if there's any other questions before we sign off. Oh, yes. Okay, Amy's just saying, I wish I was closer so I could come join you. We host all sorts of fun in-person workshops throughout the year. If you go to our website, ciderpresslane.com, that's where you can see any of the events that are happening in person. Our sourdough workshop is next weekend, Valentine's Day weekend. You can come and join me and I'll give you a little secret. I'm making sourdough discard sugar cookies so that all of our guests can have a little Valentine treat. And we're going to try and get that video on how to make it with the recipe uploaded soon. So even if you can't come join us, you can make them for all the people you love in your life. Let's see, in March is when our dahlia tuber sale opens online. If you love growing flowers, oh my goodness, come and hang out with us. We have a huge cutting garden because it looks beautiful, number one. And we also do all sorts of events, and we do wedding florals and all sorts of stuff in the summertime. But in March, you can purchase our dahlia tubers, and then also you can come and join us in person in our cutting garden. We walk around the whole cutting garden. I show you what it looks like in March, which isn't super impressive, but it's like the very beginning of getting things going. I show you what these plants look like then. And then let's see, April, we are out prepping the garden, getting everything ready, lots of good mulch and garden soil going in. I'll bring you along with us. In May, we'll be planting our dahlias. We'll make sure that you can come and join us. We'll also be getting the tomatoes planted out then. And there's some tricks when you plant your tomatoes to help them get the best root systems, to get growing really fast. Let's see, June, it's going to be kind of quiet around here in June in terms of event stuff because one of our daughters is graduating and we got all sorts of fun planned. And then we get into the summertime. And if you're brand new to everything we do at Ciderpress Lane, we host some of our very favorite events in July and August, and they're called Freedom Dinners. And we'll put the link, Shelly will put the link below to the Freedom Dinners as well. They are so beautiful. I can't even really take credit for how amazing they are. I just have to cheer our community on. Years ago, what started our business, it's actually like, it's a super cool story, and I'll give you the 1-minute version of it. About 12 years ago, I heard about the reality of human trafficking and sex slavery, and my mind was blown, and our kids were little, and I thought, oh my word, what if this was me? What if this was one of our girls? Ugh, heartbreaking. And I just thought, we have to do something, anything to help. But I was like, I'm just a mom from Bremerton. I don't have anything I can really do to help. I can't go out on the streets and beat back the bad guys, but I can make really good food. And we started inviting people to our table and asking friends, hey, we'll make dinner. Will you just come and join us? And instead of going out to eat at a restaurant, give a donation to Atlas Free, and we will use this dinner as a way to fight human trafficking. Well, we hosted one dinner, and I thought, I don't know, maybe we'll do another. We'll see if our community really wants to be part of it. And people started asking over and over again, when's your next dinner? I want to come and be a part. I want to help you. Let me donate wine. Here's salmon that I caught. We have crab. How about I give you stuff from my garden? And what started as like really this really shaky, I wasn't sure if people were going to say yes to the invitation, has turned into the most powerful and beautiful dinners that from our backyard have raised hundreds of thousands of dollars over the last like 12 years. And the cool thing is that now we get to help other communities start them as well. So come, join us. Or if you're looking around your table and your community and thinking, I want to host one of these, message me. We have all sorts of resources on our website to help you. And every once in a while, we get to come and actually join you in real life and help you host it. But we can only choose a couple communities each year to do that with. But there's so much goodness happening. Make sure you hop on over to our website, ciderpresslane.com. When you're on the website, join our email list. All of this goodness that's happening on YouTube, I actually send an email out most of the time on Wednesdays each week, and I'm giving you links to any videos we posted. Like this live right here, we're going to make sure that all of our email friends get the link to it so that you can watch it whenever you want, because I get it. Life is busy. You don't have time to necessarily be online every time I'm online. So join our email list, come hang out with us. We're so glad that you're here. I'm going to bring you back each week when we do a live. I'm going to show you what's happening with the tomatoes and get your setup going. It's not too late. Like I'm kind of early. I like to just do it now because it is just this like really fun winter activity for me to start playing with my dirt and growing my seeds. And I come down here in the morning with my coffee and I look at them and I talk to them. So I hope that you have just a spot of joy starting your own seeds too, and we'll keep you posted on how they're doing. So I'm so glad you're here, and I'll chat with you all soon. I'll make sure that the lives that we're going to do next week are posted so that you can save them to your calendar and get a reminder, because we love when you can come and join us too.